Nick's Hey Arnold might be my favorite media of all time. I don't even want to say cartoon of all time, because I want to stress how much I adored this show above any other film, TV show, or game. As a kid growing up, Hey Arnold was a show I frequently watched on Nickelodeon. Now, it wasn't the funniest show I watched. Shows like Ed, Ed, and Eddie, and the original SpongeBob had me on the floor laughing. A ruffle, if you will. I think at most, Hey Arnold would give me a chuckle or a smile. Yet, the show made me feel something more than any other cartoon. And that was relatability. Whether it was the jerk Harold, the eccentric Mr. Wynn, or the titular Arnold, I was able to understand a character's feelings and empathize with them. No matter how odd or different a character on the surface seemed at first, their humanity would always emerge, and I found myself relating to them. And because of that, these characters and stories stayed with me for years, while all those other funny shows were left behind in my adolescence. The show today still resonates with me years after it stopped airing on TV. The show was just that well written and realized. Hey Arnold has so many good episodes that it's hard to choose my favorite, but after thinking and reflecting on each, I've come up with my favorite episode, which I consider Peak Arnold. What's my personal criteria for Peak Arnold? I believe it's an episode that can make you relate to a character's dilemma. An episode that allows its character to have quiet moments of introspective while having that signature jazz in the background. It's also an episode that isn't afraid to get a little dark. All of these traits, I believe, make the show what it is. One episode in particular I feel blends these into an immensely relatable and perfect episode. Fans of the show are probably wondering which episode I feel embodies that. Parents' Day? Helga on the Couch? Arnold's Christmas? All legendary episodes for sure. But no, my personal favorite episode, the one I show first to anyone who's never seen the show, is Gerald's Secret. An unexpected choice for someone's top episode, I'm sure, but trust me, it has all the ingredients for a perfect episode. Great comedic moments, a relatable struggle, Arnold's commitment to help those around, that smooth jazz, and the focused character overcoming their problem. Let's get into it. The episode starts with all of the typical kids riding their bikes and performing tricks. When Gerald shows up, bikeless, he's surprised to hear the kids are practicing riding for an upcoming bike-a-thon later this weekend.
To raise money for some goofy charity or something.
It's for world peace, Helga.
Yeah, I used to believe in all that stuff once.
When his peers invite him to join, Gerald makes excuses to why he can't. Puzzled, Arnold follows Gerald to his house where he sees Gerald watching TV and not painting his house as he claimed he was going to. When asked what's wrong, Gerald demands a vow of secrecy in order for him to share what's troubling him. A bewildered Arnold finally agrees to tell no one. Hesitantly, Gerald reveals his biggest secret.
I don't know how to ride a bike. Come on, Gerald, quit kidding around.
I'm not kidding, Arnold. This is serious.
Why does this matter? Well, Gerald is the self-proclaimed, and if word got out that he couldn't even ride a bike, he'd lose that reputation and be ridiculed by his entire class. So making excuses and hiding the truth is the best he can do. That is, until Arnold offers to teach him how to ride a bike, promising no one will find out. At an old tire shop, their first lesson begins, an incredibly embarrassing lesson. Gerald's worst fear comes true when Harold, the resident bully, witnesses the lesson and spills the beans to all the other fellow kids. In an attempt to save face, Arnold assures everyone that Gerald will be at the bike-a-thon and proved to everyone he can ride a bike. So now the stakes are high. Show up to the bike-a-thon and make a fool out of himself in front of everyone, or try to learn and prove everyone wrong. As a conflict for a story, I love this. It shows that you don't need an end-of-the-world scenario for the stakes to feel high. The stakes just need to feel high for the characters. I, for one, relate to the story so much. I couldn't even grasp how to ride a bike until I was 11. It was impossible for me to get on and pedal without someone holding me up. I thought I would never learn. Bouncing and stopping were my biggest issues. I would literally dive bomb off my bike whenever I wanted to get off. It was incredibly frustrating and humiliating. Back to the episode. We later see how each of Gerald's lessons are going, with him failing every single fundamental of bike riding, from speed to braking to turning, each time wiping out in an embarrassing way. Nothing seems to be working, Arnold, still hopeful and optimistic, believes Gerald will get the hang of it after some more practice, but a defeated Gerald has had enough and unleashes his frustration at Arnold, blaming him for the humiliation he's about to experience tomorrow at the event. Gerald decides to quit and walks his bike home. Arnold pleads with him not to give up and affirms that he can do this, but Gerald walks away, accepting his fate. Later that night, Gerald's pleasant and more optimistic dream when bike riding wasn't filled with stress and anxiety morphs into a nightmare, blending his childhood trauma with his current dilemma, as we see Harold push Gerald off the hill that scared him off bike riding all those years ago. Waking up in a panic, Gerald finally realizes he can't be afraid forever. In the background, we hear that signature jazz playing, creating such a memorable scene as Gerald picks up his helmet and returns to that now infamous hill. Determination turns to fear and uncertainty, but he pedals on. He doesn't bail, and soon that fear turns into excitement. Gerald even raises his arms in a self-congratulating gesture. He's done it. He's conquered his fear, but can he do it again at the bike-a-thon with all of his friends watching? Finally, the day is here. As Arnold arrives, the gang questions him where Gerald is, still doubting that he will show up. Arnold, confident in his friend, assures them that he will show up. Then, from out of the crowd, Gerald confidently emerges riding his bike to a shocked Helga and Harold. After some light taunting, the kids roll out. Gerald proves his might and flies by the other kids, gaining a huge lead until he is once again face to face with that hill. He pauses and looks down while all the other kids are closing the gap, until Arnold, ahead of the pack, asks Gerald what he's waiting for, to which Gerald replies with the best line of the episode.
I'm waiting for you, man.
Aww, doesn't that display of true friendship just melt your heart? Together, they take off down the hill, passing all the doubters until the only obstacle left is Harold. Fortunately, karma finally catches up with him and he gets his comeuppance. With a clear path, Gerald finishes in first place, Arnold right behind him. A perfect end to this episode. So, I hope I was able to portray the episode in the best light. How this episode had everything that makes an episode special, and in a compact 11 minutes no less. Again, I realize this episode may not be everyone's favorite, or even on their top 5's list. To me though, it has a special place in my heart. It reminds me of my struggles with riding a bike, and the moment where I too looked down a hill, determined to finally overcome my inability, and the sheer excitement when I finally did. Great stories have relatable characters whose problems we can resonate with and who we desire to see succeed. That's Hey Arnold, and if you haven't seen the show, give it a watch sometime. You might just find the show speaking to you too.